Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 40 of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. And Damon Gant is giving his testimony on the piece of evidence that was just now entered in the court, which happened to be found with Lana's guy's red muffler. And to make things even worse, now there's 2 murders! Not just 1, 2 murders. Unfortunately, the second murder's not officially linked, so there's absolutely no way we could discuss it. However, there was a murder indeed in the police department according to Gant. So on that note, we're gonna have to use testimony, not to beat around the bush, but rather testimony to try to see what the hell is going on. But more importantly, Edgeworth is just as bamboozled as everybody else, considering the fact that 2 men have been killed at the same place at the same time. Well, at the same place, at the same time at different places, actually. I have to think about that for a second, because this was the police department. How can there be a murder in the police department and the police don't even know about it? So it's going to be up to us to bust that open. So, let's do that, shall we? But there's 2 rules with evidence law. And the first rule is the evidence has to be relevant to the case, and second, it has to be approved by the chief of police, or at least by a police officer. Now then, in order for you to actually in order for you to actually find out some things, you're gonna have to wait. And I mean wait on this particular thing, because that's going to be used later. Wherever you press, wherever you present, you got to be careful. But I'm showing that letter off for one reason and one reason only. This one, right here. This statement. You press that letter against this statement. Or present the letter to that statement, whichever one comes first. And Damon Gant is having the time of his life. Now, Damon's definitely enjoying himself, but you have to actually point out the obvious thing that the tag of the knife says SL9 too. However, the memo also is actually upside down. The judge is reading it to 6 minus 7s and 12 divided by 2, but if you turn it upside down, the paper would read 221 SL9, which is the date and also the code of the case that is happening right now, or code of the case that was closed. Yeah, you heard me correctly. That case is closed. It's a huge difference from DL6. So on that note, it seems that Gant is still playing games with us. However, I think we just did something very important. So you're gonna have to, if I'm not mistaken, press the statement? And that is exactly what you're going to have to do. If you press that statement, no, if you present something in that statement, you're gonna probably get a credibility hit. But pressing it is a good idea. But the knife of that case was stolen from the evidence room, and Edgeworth's knife was used as a murder. Something is rather weird about this. So, you're gonna have to actually press him on the detective being killed in the police department, because I want to know more about that too. On the same day at the same time. So, he's gonna actually drop a huge bombshell later on about said detective. So you're gonna have to keep your eyes and ears, well, your eyes open, not your ears, because quite frankly, this game is like all text. But they also just arrested a suspect as well, so we probably won't know about that until later. Although I do know this. We're gonna have to ask, where was the victim found? Anything else? He's not gonna answer. Now, this is the one you're supposed to ask. The crime actually took place in the evidence room. So therefore, the evidence room was mentioned in the testimony. So there's the connection. The knife and the murder happened in the evidence room. And now we need to find the link between those two. And the only way we find the link is if we actually get Gant to testify about the details. So we're gonna have to press him on that statement too, where he says it's not officially linked. So, without any further ado, the connections between the case and the knife is proven. So, seeing as how the knife and also the evidence tag were both connected in the same place, so now we need to find out something else. Who was killed in the evidence room? We found out that it was a murder and the weapon was used was a knife. The question was who it was. And you know what? Edgeworth is getting real tired of the jovial nature of Damon Gant. He really is. Unfortunately, there's no autopsy. Why did I say autism? I'm sorry. I meant to say autopsy paper. How did I get that? Never mind. There's no autopsy, so we don't know who the person is. However, you're gonna have to press a statement that he just now made. So on that note, let's let him spill his guts. So, we just need the victim's ID number, and that's all you need. Anything else will garner you a strike or probably detour you to the ID number. So, pick the ID number. However, Gant gives the ID number 5842189. And that ID number looks familiar. Now, if you did examining to a certain someone's badge, or should I say ID number, that ID number is going to be coming into play right about now. So you're going to have to choose it does. So what we're going to do, yeah, you're going to have to choose it. This tells me something. And we're gonna have to find the ID of as one Bruce Goodman and put it against his statement. Oh God, I'm getting a lot of sore throat here, but it's not what you think. So on that note, see that ID number, put it up against the statement. And that is the very ID number that Gant just said. And unfortunately, while Edgeworth is trying to tell him to come out guns a-blazing, the thing that is kind of baffling is Bruce Goodman has been murdered in 2 places. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Goodman was also the name of the victim in the prosecutor's office. Prosecutor's parking lot. With all due respect, we now have a conundrum. Not only did the police chief give us an ID number of the same guy we just saw dead, but we also now know that there's a murder that involved a stolen piece of evidence. So now it's all linked. Meaning one thing. The death happened at the very same exact time. And now Edgeworth is completely blown away. And not only that, he's trying to find out, how is this even relevant? More importantly, what does this all mean? And why didn't he hear anything about it? I hate to burst your bubble, but Edgeworth is about to be exposed again. Oh, he made that villainous pose right there where he straightened his tie. That right there is the pose that you do not want him to make. Because anybody who's played this case, when he makes that pose, chances are you're probably getting a penalty if you actually screwed up in trying to press him on a matter. And, by the way, the knife, as well as the report of the murder in the evidence room, was all supposed to be sent by Officer Meekins. But not only was Meekins sent out of the room by Edgeworth, he got demoted as an end result. So this was on Edgeworth's fault. Yes, it's totally unrelated to the case up until now. Oh, snap! I told you evidence law is going to come into play. But unfortunately, Damon Gant just literally had Phoenix Wright prove that the murder that happened in the evidence room was the same exact link to the murder that was happening in the prosecutor's parking lot. Unfortunately, Damon Gant couldn't submit this as evidence after Miles rejected it, because again, he couldn't do it. second rule of evidence law. There had to be a correlation. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. So that submission of evidence law means that's sorry. What I meant to say is the evidence that was supposed to be given to Edgeworth, which would have been submitted, there would have been a totally different trial, but still, if it would have been submission, if Edgeworth would have received it, and Phoenix Wright would have made connection, then the evidence would have been valid, but not in the slightest right then and there. In other words, Edgeworth screwed himself by being pompous to Officer Meekins, and he did nothing wrong. Well, now Edgeworth has more problems to deal with. Aside from the fact that he has the rumors, he has made a grave error, and also all the cover-ups he did in the past with Wright. The man is literally getting humiliation conga throughout the entirety of this trial. So on that note, the judge is actually going to give us another day. And it'll be enough for Edgeworth to try to make up this blunder. Also, it'll be enough time to give us a good investigation. Hopefully, we'll be able to find something to help bust open this case, and more importantly, try to actually reduce the amount of trouble that Lana Skye is in. But we'll worry about that come part 41, when we actually start day 2 of investigation. Dear God, 2 days of trial. No, actually, it's still the same day, but it was a part 2 trial. Jesus Christ.